What's up, Noah? How are you? Happy Sunday.
Yeah, we took a summer hiatus, and a lot has happened. Um, One of the first victims was my beard, of course, so I shaved that off. Um, I had to wait a few months to get vaccinated, um, and when I did, I had one of those little ticking time bomb adverse reactions that happened about a week and a half later. So this time last week, I was sitting at the VA hospital, um, not feeling well. So I'm happy just to be here. It's good to be back in action again. It's good to be vertical instead of horizontal. Um, your health really matters, of course. So it's good to be back in action. I wasn't feeling well, but I'm back to normal, if not better. And I say if not better because they did a lot of lab tests on me, and one of the things came back. They said, "Hey, your blood cholesterol is like fantastic. So
Mm-hmm.
let's just scratch off any statin inhibitor, whatever that you're taking." So I came out of the
Mm-hmm.
hospital. I came out of the hospital. You know how I see all these people when I was leaving. You know, they when they get discharged, they get a prescription. They got to stop by the pharmacy and get something. I sailed right past that. I came in not feeling well. Came out with less prescriptions, less need of anything. The only loss that I encountered, that I suffered, I lost my AirPods at the hospital. I left them in the hotel or in the hospital room, and they
Mm-hmm.
just they disappeared, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But anyways, I'm back to normal in that regard. Um, I may let this beard grow out a little bit. Um, what's going on with you? What's news?
Well, just to piggyback what you said, first of all, I'm genuinely, you and I have become closer and closer friends over the years, and you are a true friend,
Thank you.
and you've done some things for me that we don't even talk about on the show, but I appreciate the you having my back and the things you've done for me, and um, so I'm just very happy that you're that you're healthy, that you're rejuvenated, and those kind of scares where you were overnight in the hospital. I think you were there for a couple of days, 2 days, whatever. They're running tests, and this was not just a run of the mill reaction. You had a reaction that was was scary. It was concerning, and it could have been something really, really significant. Um, so it just puts things into perspective, though, doesn't it? I mean, like we get so inundated, so worried about so many things, about headlines we read, about so many things, and then at the end of the day, a scare like that just kind of puts things in perspective. It's just like in jiu-jitsu or the fight game, an injury puts things in perspective. When you have that injury, and then when you heal that injury and you come back and you realize how just the gratitude, like I say that every day at my age, every day on the mats is Christmas to me, man. I don't take a single day for granted. I don't take it for granted. It's all extra. If you had told me many years ago that I would be doing this grappling thing or the martial arts thing for 36 years and still be going and my body would still work, I would have been like, no way. I mean, your body's just not built for that. But so to be on the mat still, and today I was out there with a 19-year-old kid and training with a young female MMA fighter, and then just training with people my age and other black belts, and um, anyway, it puts a lot of things in perspective. How I don't care what you got. You and I we talk privately a lot about the importance of financial health and financial well-being and how important that is, because if something's wrong there, like I say, a lot of people disagree with me, but for me, if everything is financially right, like 70% of life's problems go away. That's just me. I mean, I know that, people say, to me, I'd say 70 to 75% of all my problems would go away. I don't have a whole lot of life problems other than some of the financial things that I'd encountered. I don't really have a lot of I don't have like, but the biggest thing certainly is health. If you don't have good health, you got nothing. And so one thing that we want to impress upon people, we want to inspire, is just making that switch go off. Because, I live in a land, Noah. I live in a bubble, right? I live in this very fairy tale bubble where a lot of the people I've been training with for the last 10, 15, 16 years, they're highly motivated one percenters who are just all about physical fitness and they're taking care of themselves. But the reality is that's kind of a bubble. When you get into a lot of sectors of our country, a lot of people just are not taking good care of themselves, mentally, spiritually, physically, health-wise. And what needs to happen for a lot of people is a wake-up call of some sort, or some sort of mental switch to go off. We all have an area of our life that's like that, by the way. I have areas in my life that are not physical fitness that are like that, where a switch still needs to go off, right? It's like you read it, but it's not getting through, right? There's a difference between the reading and the doing. And so we all have areas of our life, but for a lot of people, it's like, okay, if you're not a person who's been athletic your whole life, if you're not a person who's been living in the gym like I have, and you're saying, hey, Frank, how can some of your discipline rub off on me? How can they get a mental switch, or how can they see things through my eyes, maybe, or just get some of that passion, get some of that exuberance, get some of that, go get it. By the way, we were thinking on the mats today, we were all sweating after training, and we're like, bro, there's just levels of sweating, man. There's like a hierarchy of sweating. When you grapple, you realize there's levels of sweating. I mean, it's the sweatiest thing. And for the females on the mats, I did no-gi today. For the females on the mats, Noah, they're the bravest females out there. There's not many women that are going to sign up for being sweated upon as profusely as the sweat goes down in some of these training sessions. There's just not many women that are going to sign up for that. So a lot of praise to the women out there that are brave enough to get out there and just go through that. These guys just sweating everywhere, and we were slipping and sliding. We did some takedowns too. But final thing, going back to it, I'm very happy. Nobody's happier than me that you're healthy. That I think it seems like maybe some little extra switch went off in your brain too, where there's an extra incentive that I hope you're able to ride that momentum, whatever you went through mentally, whatever decision you made. I just hope you can keep that momentum, and that it inspires you, Noah, and propels you forward as you go into the remainder of this year and into next year. I hope you're able to ride that wave and really reach new levels of physical fitness and emotional fitness too.
That little switch, or you talk about having someone shadow you. Really, that's about making small rules that are non-negotiables. Mm-hmm. And you start, because I always think of like, how do you go from where you're sitting here to being a fighter jet pilot, or where do you go from here to being a surgeon? And all that, and all that they do, or if you go from here to being a world-class entrepreneur or investor. And all that they do is they have little rules. They're just tiny rules and those intricacies. It's just like in the leg lock game or any kind of system, like the 10th planet system. They have little rules with pathways, hierarchies. There's a word that I'm missing there that I want to use. But it's these little rules of thumb that you follow. And you're like, okay, when I see this, I do this. Like last night, I was watching Big Boy in Houston fighting, and I think everyone could see it. He came out in that second round, and he was just covered in sweat, Derek Lewis. And you're looking at him like, so where was his conditioning? Because those leg kicks and those body blows that he was receiving from Gagne or Gain, they were having a toll on him, and he just got to the end where he just balled up. He just balled, put his guard up, and the referee stepped in for the TKO. And it's just a bunch of system of rules. And for him, he had gotten on a very solid path. I don't know what he said afterwards. Okay, I don't know what's been written or what excuses have been made or things like that. But in the past year, he had gotten onto a virtuous path where he was really he made changes in his diet, he made changes in his training, and I want to. For the heavyweights, I found something. I have a learning. I have like a lesson, or I have an insight that I want to share with you about me and cardio and that feeling of cardiovascular distress. So my earliest memory of cardio having stress is I was just starting 6th grade the summer before, and I was at a rural high school, junior high. They both combined, and I went out in the August Texas heat, and these football coaches had us doing bear walks, where you a bear crawl. You crawl to 10 yards, you come back, and you go to 20 and come back. And I was I hadn't been tested like that before. I hadn't been put in that kind of distress before, and I came away with a very negative experience. So, because I had to think, I've been thinking, just like, look, that's one of the things about meditating does, is that it creates a space where you see these insights of like, where did this come from? And like, you got to go back all the way back to your childhood and start to discover these grooves, these patterns of thought and belief that are created, and your orientation to it. I may have a little something going on with my heart. Okay. Just, big guys. I think maybe big guys have bigger hearts, and, in finance and accounting, you tend to take a lot of beating on your heart. If that makes sense, that stress level where you're like, oh, that discomfort from on your professional side of work, it goes straight to your heart, because your heart always keeps the score more so than anything else in your body. So I'm trying to put these kind of thoughts together right now, and like, why is it that I just dislike that feeling? And so what I've been doing, and you're right, I've been working towards it. I talked about wanting to do a triathlon. But I think this is kind of probably common with heavyweights, is they get into this place where they've had some negative experiences when they're younger, with being tested and out of breath, and of that weakness, and they don't want to go back. They don't want to lean into that. They want to distance themselves from that place, and that seems to be a major opportunity. It's a major opportunity for growth.
Yeah.
There's a big guy. If a big guy can move nonstop, and have a high output, he has a high energy output for 5 minutes, 7 minutes in a jiu-jitsu match. Man, that's scary. And if their whole game is just nonstop, go, they're going to get the looks, they're going to get the opportunities, instead of playing that defensive resting approach, where you're on the offense. So when I came back out of the hospital this week, I hit the pool. And part of that's not being perfectionistic. I don't need it to be perfect. I don't need to do flip turns every time. Just touch the wall and turn around and come back. And I don't have to do the whole workout perfectly, but I'm in there. And if you just stay consistent with that, the change will start to occur. So I got a sunburn on my back, and so I had to take yesterday off. The air quality here in Vegas was just deplorable. So, anyways, that's just me sharing with you like a whole thought process around, big guys with their cardio, and what I think is a major difference maker, because we're strong, but our hearts are the weakest link here. Our hearts are.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts.
With Derek Lewis, so a couple of things about that fight last night, UFC fight, which was a
Did you
really
see
good
it?
card, and I did. I enjoyed it.
Okay.
I enjoyed it, and but I would say one assumption, and I've seen this assumption a lot in boxing as well, and it's the assumption that the big puncher, right, the Derek Lewis, as he said, hey, I only have to land once. He knew,
Yeah.
I mean, he was almost conceding in the lead up to the fight with his comments. He's conceding, listen, this guy is better technically than me. He throws more volume, but I've only got to touch him once. I'm a big puncher. I knock people out. And that's great. And that there's a lot of truth to that a lot of times. But that assumption can also get you in trouble, because if you rely too heavily on that assumption, then you automatically concede. It's almost like you just like, well, I'm not going to worry as much about technique because I just need to touch you once. So you got to be careful when we make that assumption in life, and we lean on that assumption too much. It's almost like, well, I don't need to be a technician because I'm just going to touch you once. Well, what we found out last night is when you fight a guy, there's levels, right? There's levels to Muay Thai. There's levels to everything. And this guy, Cyril Gane, at 245, 250 pounds, who floats around the ring and is on his toes the whole time, and who does a great job judging distance, and who has 10 different weapons, who switches stances, okay? A heavyweight who switches stances and can beat you from both sides, who can kick your leg in. I mean, every time he kicks your leg, it's devastating. What we saw is like, okay, this French guy has 10 different weapons to beat you, and Derek just has, a big overhand. He can blitz you, and then he might land an overhand or something, right? Or a big uppercut.
Yeah.
That's it. And we found out when the guy has the war chest, the guy understands distance, and he's got kicks. He can kick you low. He can kick you in the middle. He can kick you high. He's got a good jab. He can 1-2 you. Right, he can stuff your takedowns. We found, and he's relaxed. He doesn't get tired. He wasn't tired. Just honestly, it looked like a sparring session. It looked like an easy sparring session for Cyril Gane. It just looked like the guy, like a walk in the park. Really, it did. So, and by the way, I think that he, and I like Francis Ngannou, and I know Eric Nixick, and I know Dewey Cooper, his trainers, and I've got a lot of respect. Francis Ngannou's got a great story. But after seeing that yesterday, I'm very inclined to say that Cyril's will beat Ngannou. He's just, again, it's the same kind of fight as Derek Lewis, big puncher. Gane's got dynamite in his hands. But what I saw, I'm sorry, Francis does. This is another thing, though. People underestimate Cyril. Cyril can crack too. I mean, we're sitting here and we're saying he's a technician. The guy can crack. I mean, he can knock you out too. I mean, if you want to be reckless and careless, he can knock any of these guys out too. So he's just, you have to go with the percentages. And what I saw, the guy with all the weapons, maybe Ngannou blitzes him and catches him. He's faster than Derek Lewis, right? He's faster. He's more of an athletic freak than Derek Lewis. But just the weaponry. The thing I was fascinated about Cyril Gane, and I think that this is a good observation for a lot of people. If you're an athlete or whatever you're good at or you take pride in, Cyril fights different people differently. I mean, I love that. I love strategists. GSP did that. Kamaru Usman does that. Dustin Poirier of late has been doing that. You love, some people are just the same version of themselves every fight, and they may be very effective at it, but they just show up as the same fighter. I thought Rashad Evans, I thought that was one of the great downfalls of Rashad Evans, among other things, is that he just always stayed the same fighter. I never saw him really evolve. And he was like this wrestler that had, hard punches, some hard ground and pound. His jiu-jitsu never evolved. I mean, his stand-up never, I mean, he had a high kick, he did it every now and again, but I just never really saw him evolve. And Ciryl Gane, you saw the discipline yesterday. Like, look, he knows how to beat Black Beast. His coaches, you got to be really happy as a coach. Like, everything you expected and prepared for, worst case scenario, you had covered. I mean, Derek Lewis never mounted any threat. So that means the coaches did their job. They saw what they need to see on video. They found a game plan, they found a strategy, and it worked to the T. So your coaches did a great job, and the athlete did a great job executing it. And it wasn't the same game plan that we've seen with Ciryl in other fights. He changes. So that says to me, even when he fights someone like Ngannou, like, wow. So Ngannou's watching the fight and says, okay, this is how he fought Derek Lewis. Well, that's what I got to do. But you don't know, because he might develop a whole different strategy for you. So now you're thinking. You can't expect necessarily that the same guy shows up, because Ciryl Gane is that good where he can show up different and execute different strategies and do different things. Love that about the guy. Anyway, so that's that's talking about that. Now getting to, I want to say this to you. I mean, you're talking about the health, okay? The cardiovascular is huge, and it really gets to be huge, Noah, especially once you get in the mid-30s, the early 40s, the late 40s, the 50s. It becomes, people don't like that. Most people don't like working out regularly. Most people don't like that. What most people like the least, even those who work out, is cardio. Okay, there's a small subset of athletes who love the cardio, and they love to run, and they love, distance this and distance swimming. It's the minority. Even among people that love athletics, most people don't love the cardio element of just the monotony of it, right? The monotony of it, whatever, getting your heart rate up. Most people don't love that. But you've seen that even in research, that's one of the best things you can do for, you can lift a lot of weight. You can lift a lot of weight in your 60s. That does not mean you've got healthy circulation and a healthy heart. You'd be a ticking time bomb. That's why so many people, when they say, oh, I knew so-and-so, and he was so healthy, and then he dropped dead of a heart attack at 45. It's like, it's normally not the guy that was running 10 miles a day. It's normally not. It's the guy who was lifting. He played some basketball here and there. Maybe he had, something going on with an arrhythmia with the heart, or something that was not diagnosed, right? Usually there's something that wasn't diagnosed, but you don't see people that are out cycling 10, 15 miles, 4 or 5 times a week, dropping dead of heart attack. You don't see a lot of it.
You're totally correct.
Yeah.
And not to cut you off, but I want to just comment
But a lot
real
of people
quick.
romanticize that, and that's their excuse. Like, oh, well, when it's your time, it's your time. And this is what the narrative people tell themselves. Like, no, if you're on a bike regularly, even if you are just a brisk walker, they found for reducing heart attacks and for improving blood flow, reducing the risk of blood clots. The brisk walking, some would say 30 minutes a day. I would recommend breaking it up at least 2 bouts of walking a day, one early, one late. I would recommend twice a day, but not just walking, but brisk walking. It's phenomenal in terms of just longevity, blood circulation, basic upkeep, because you're a financial guy, and you work long, hard hours, and you're sitting a lot of that time. And even if you're standing every hour, you are sitting. That blood is clumping, that blood is stagnant, and it increases the odds of it interfering with the coagulation or plaquing over time, or reduced blood flow. If your hydration's not on point, then it creates even more of a problem. Then you throw in, as you mentioned, the stress levels, throw in that as a factor, and the tension of that, and it's like, it's that's why it's so important for a guy like you, not just you got the dog, not just to get out and walk that dog a couple times a day, not just to get up, I would say even every 30, 35 minutes and move, even if it's for 60 seconds. But it's so important for you to be doing something, whether it's cycling, whether it's jiu-jitsu, whether it's, you know, whatever, hiking, because you have to ventilate, Noah. You have a lot on your shoulders. You have a lot riding.
It's
You're
a
a
lot
guy
of
that's
stuff. Yeah.
you're taking care of a lot of people. So you've got to have, I know you do the meditation, that's been working for you, but you got to have that daily physical ventilation as well, where all of those pent up emotions, all of that stress, all of that tension can be dissipated, can be let go. You can breathe it out. You can exercise it out. Literally, think about the word exercise and how close the word exercise is to exorcise. An
Yeah.
exorcism, right? Like an exorcism. It's literally, for some of us, it's not exercise, it's exorcise. It's like an exorcism for some
Sure.
of us.
I want to jump in here real quick to make a comment. It was a few podcasts ago, but you gave me a compliment. I could be mixing our private conversation with what we did on a
Sure,
podcast,
sure.
but you talked about the curiosity that you and I both have a natural curiosity,
Yeah.
and I think a lot. Especially as I'm getting close to 50, the big 50 is coming, the half century mark. I think
Yeah.
about, well, which one of us is going to die first, and it's probably me, and I don't want to excuse that away, but you're smaller than me, and I started thinking about the what I need, with some changes I need to make, slow, those small rules, okay, those small rules to get
Yep.
yourself to that point. And I don't have to make them all at once, and they can be slow and gradual, and just adapt over time.
Here's
So
what you need to do. You need to start thinking like the 185-pound Noah, your higher self. You need to start
yeah,
thinking,
that's hard.
what would 185-pound Noah do?
Yeah, no, that's it.
What would he do?
That's. I mean, and I'm saying this because, in a lot of ways, um, the stuff that I've gone through in my life over the last decade and a half, it taught me that you got to have purpose in this life, because that's what keeps you going. You have to have a larger purpose. And I chose the name of this podcast so that I could serve as a muse for guys like me who are stuck in that rut. They work in finance, they're working in these kind of jobs, and they're overweight, and they have responsibilities. How do I make space? How do I make space in my life for change? And so I elevate, and communicate a lot of the stuff that goes on with me, so that
Noah,
I can help others. That's my
let me
purpose.
let me interject 1 second. And this is something I've lived. I've been high, I've been low, I've been everywhere. Like a country song, right? I've seen the highest of highs in this
Yeah.
lifetime, and I've seen some pretty dang lows, some pretty low lows, and everything in between. And I will say that one of the things, and I'm not making excuses, because at the end of the day, I don't like to make excuses. I like extreme responsibility and ownership, because that's the only way we really can fix things, whether or not it was our fault or not. The only way stuff gets done is that we clean if there's a big mess in our life, nobody else is coming to clean that mess up for. We're probably going to clean, even if somebody did, you're probably going to have to clean up 90% of your own mess. Somebody really nice who really loves you might help you clean up 10% of it. But 90% of it's going to be you. And if I sit here bitching about the mess, the reality is Frank has, I can bitch about it, but the reality is at some point Frank has to clean up probably 90%, probably 100% of that mess, right? Maybe 98% of it. But the interesting thing is, I think that the condition, how much do conditions matter? I think what we have, let's just say in the United States of America, is we have so many people that don't like the work they do. Maybe it is actually sucky work, but it's not just sucky work, it's soul sucking work. It sucks the soul out of so many people. The hours that people spend, usually, most people are working a job they do not like. And it's not just that the job, it's just that it's not what they were born to do. It's not even remotely in the stratosphere. But the reality is there are bills that are due. They take it out of desperation. They feel handcuffed in there. They're probably not even treated that respectfully at the job.
Yeah.
They're miserable at the job. Their coworkers are, a lot of them are miserable, and the customers miserable. The people that do have jobs, a lot of them are overworked. They're doing the job of 2 people, 3 people sometimes, literally, right? Where companies are shoving so much work on one person, it's not humanly possible for someone to do all of that work. And so I think a lot of people, as much as I can sit here and preach motivation and say to people, you don't want it bad enough, you gotta be a high achiever like me and blah blah blah. The reality is a lot of people, man, they're just drained because they've got work, they've got kids, they've got a job they don't like, they've got a boss that maybe doesn't like them, they're doing the work of 2 people, they're dealing with whatever angry customers. They don't have anything left over, man. They're just almost daily drowning, and it's not that they're like weakness of will. In other words, if they had, let's just say, a job that they did like and it had more flex time in it. Let's say it had more flex time. Let's say America did 6 weeks or 8 weeks. I'm just making this up. Let's just say we gave everybody in America 6 weeks of vacation time a year, maybe even 2 months, like in France. People could come up for air. Let's say that, like some other countries in America, we didn't expect a lot of our workers to do the work of 2 people or 3 people. Let's just imagine if it was the workloads were much more manageable and someone did love their job and they did find purpose. They might have more energy left over at the end of the day to food prep and be healthier. And I'm not saying those things can't be done anyway, but I'm saying that is what's happening for a lot of people. It's hard for them to eat healthy because they got to go out of their way to eat healthy, right? They either got to cook or they got to drive 10, 15, 20 minutes out of the way to go get something healthy. It's usually way more expensive. And quite frankly, they're telling me, hey, Frank, I'm just drained because from the moment I wake up in the morning to get the kids to school, to do this, to deal with what I got to deal at work and a job I don't like, you know, what I'm saying is I understand that. I think that a lot of people, they've had a lot of energy just sucked out of their soul just from the grind of paycheck to paycheck and a job they don't like. And that hurts and defeats and jades so many people, man.
Yep.
That's where they're losing the battle. If you could be that lucky soul who can get to a job you like, where there's some balance, where there's some flex time, where maybe you can take 6 weeks, maybe even 8 weeks of vacation a year. You can come up for air. You can go to that jiu-jitsu class without having, to answer your phone at 7, 8 o'clock at night because people demand that you answer that phone or you're not doing your job or you're in trouble tomorrow because you didn't take care of that and answer the phone at 8 p.m. I'm kind of understanding some of those people a little better, Noah. I kind of understand that maybe their life is so that, the answer is like, it's not just, hey, you got to be more motivated. It's like a person who's going to fix their relationship with food or live healthier or work out more has to take inventory of, let's just say, a 24-hour day, and then they have to take inventory of what kind of work am I doing? They have to really arrange and organize, like, what am I going to do today, 24-hour block, and then what kind of job do I want to be in? It's a holistic thing. It's not one thing. If people are losing, you have to put your whole life under a microscope. You have to plan it out, and you kind of have to get in sync, get in the job you want, get on a sleep schedule, write down a food list of healthy stuff. And when you go in the store, you're not buying anything that's not on that list. Hire a guy like me or somebody or whatever. If it ain't on that list, you're not allowed to buy it. You just can't buy it. It doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. You can't go randomly. You have to be an intentional shopper. When you go to the grocery store, you're an intentional shopper. You have that list predetermined. You're not allowed to call an audible and buy the super deluxe triple cheese whatever pizza. You're not allowed to do that, right? Or that the crazy whatever ice cream. But you're not. That's being disciplined. But anyway, we all really need what we do for work, Noah. That 40 hours a week, how we're going to pay the rent, how we're going to pay for our car. It's so huge. That one thing is so huge and so far reaching. And yes, there are people that can tough it out. Yes, there are people that still make it work. But that's the thing that's beating a lot of people, man. They're so drained and so it's just they hate it and they disdain it, and there's so much that's pent up in them, and they've got to make peace, or they've got to make a plan that gets them out of there at some point, whether it be 6 months or 1 year or whatever. It gets them into a job, even if it's a lower paying job, even if they have to become more of a minimalist. But architecting and redesigning our life so that we actually do work we believe in, work that we love, work that allows you to get on a freaking bike for 45 minutes a day or walk your dog for an hour and not feel guilty or not feel hurried or, oh my God, I did something wrong and the boss thinks I'm slacking because I went on a 45-minute bike ride. Like, this is where we need to go, honestly. It might say, oh, you're just being idealistic. But that, if people can't do that, if they can't do work they believe in, if they can't take, like Enzo Gracie used to say, if you can't take an hour a day to do a workout, something is seriously wrong with your life. Something's seriously wrong. And guess what? A lot of us have our lives that are like that. I've had it at different points in my life where it's like, how am I going to get an hour and a half in to do this, whatever? I've had it.
Yeah.
But
You know,
that's a litmus test.
you know, funny side note there, a side observation. The white belt classes at Henzo's are 1 hour.
Yeah.
They start at 5 p.m., 5 to 6, 6 to
Yep.
7, 7 to 8, and 8 to 9. You know,
Yep.
and so you see those, you know, you see the white belt classes, and it's like a factory. You walk into the basement down there, and you look at your watch, and if it's 7 p.m., I'm sorry, 7:30, you'll see 7:30. You'll see the blue belts and up class starting. You know, it's a rhythm, it's a routine you get into. You know, because those routines are nothing but they're like it's just a hierarchy and an outline of or a map of small rules. You know, like, okay, I know I got to bring all my stuff. And we've talked before about the logistics of training jits every day. You know, you have to have all these things to get to the class on time. I
don't think I've ever said this because it's cliche, but I want to say it. It is cliche, but it's true. I've spent some time recently thinking, like literally that phrase "jujitsu saved me" or "wrestling saved me" or just this way of training, these martial arts. I don't have any idea who I don't know if I would have made it. Noah, life's been so hard, so challenging at different points, and I'm very mentally tough. I'm very resilient. That's one of my superpowers is resilience. But I don't think I would have made it without physical fitness and exercise and jiu-jitsu and wrestling, without that expression, not just exercise, but that expression, that outlet, that ventilate. I don't think I would have made it, man. It was everything I had just to make it, but without that sanctuary, without that release, without that expression, without that distraction, that pleasant distraction, I don't know how people make it without exercise. I don't know how they do. I mean, I don't know how they do. I couldn't have made it. I think I'd probably be dead some way, one form or another.
So I talked earlier about the you know, what I'm going to call one form of resistance.
Yeah.
Which is you know, this deep rooted distaste for cardio. But in the beginning, I hate the warm ups at jiu-jitsu for any academy. I don't care what it is, because it involves running, and like I just don't like that feeling. You know, I don't like that feeling. It sucks for me.
I
But I
wouldn't think
also,
about it. I think you're thinking about it too much. First of all,
well,
I
that's
think
you.
you're you're putting too much awareness on. Bruce, you say you're as tired as you think you are. Don't think about being tired. Most women, you know the women or the people who don't like all the sweat, you know, when you're doing no-gi training and everyone's sweating on you. I don't think about the sweat usually.
That doesn't bother
Uh,
me at
if,
all.
but I'm saying if I thought about the sweat, for those people that are bothered by the sweat, they're thinking too much about the sweat, right? They're too aware of it. I'm worried about grabbing that guy's arm, getting him
Sure,
on a toe hold. So you need to, instead of fighting the needle, instead of dreading that, just go do. Just let your
but let
body
me.
do.
I've
Just
got
do.
another. Sure, I need to give you another resistance. Okay, and
Yeah.
it's characteristically, it's even more different than that, because that's like we're gonna, let's just start classifying resistance. All right, there's simple resistance and there's complex resistance. Now I'm going to talk about complex resistance. Complex because it's not an easy solution. There's not an easy solution for it. Okay, it's nuanced. And what I'm talking about is I have bulging discs in my lower back. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the cause of what I've been suffering from a condition called sciatica. I didn't even know until a few years ago really what that meant, but I was just having these feelings in my body, and they were not pleasure feelings. This is pain. Okay, but I have bulging discs in my lower back. So there's another resistance there. I when I sleep, I have to constantly, if I'm lying on my left side, I gotta flip. Let me do this with this hand. If I'm lying on my left side, I gotta flip over to my right. I gotta flip all night flipping.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and because my spine starts to hurt after a while, and my hips hurt, because of pain. So, and then that causes me not sleep as well. So you see a vicious cycle that you get in, and so then you drink caffeine, because you got to stay awake because you're literally sleep deprived from the pain, and then how are you going to feel like going and physical exertion when you're going to feel more pain afterwards? By the way, I love takedowns. I love takedowns. I love it when we're doing takedowns. After the warm up, after we do all that, we'll do 10 minutes of takedowns, and at Henzo's. I love takedowns. I used to hate them. I used to be afraid of it because of simple resistance, of meaning afraid to get hurt, and overcame that form of resistance. But there's another resistance that builds that is layers deep, and that's a complex resistance, and that's pain, your spine, your neck. I think with you've mentioned before, you've got some.
I have a C6. I have a titanium plate at C6, C7.
Yeah, so
And
with you,
I've had serious back stuff and car
uh-huh,
accidents, and I've had the spine and by the way,
a
I would
neck.
say, I'm not comparing you and I here, but I'm saying I've had more days of hand tingling numbness. Most 99 point whatever percent of people are not going to go through their life with more hand can't feel this numbness, and I've had so many days of that in my life, right? So
Yeah,
I know spinal pain, neck pain, cervical pain, back pain, know it well. Usually either the smallest or one of the smallest people in the grappling class or the wrestling class for a lot of years now. Not big, 133 to 137 pounds most days. I still say no, and people can believe it or not believe it. I still think for the vast majority, we're all different. We're all different. Our bodies are different. Your body's different. Anatomically, you may have a predisposition to something too, or whatever. And so we're all different. But where would I start? I'm just going to say starting points for what you're describing, and I'm not diagnosing it or saying it absolutely will work. I'm just saying, what would Frank do? Where would Frank start?
if
I
yeah,
would.
if you could if we could exchange souls for a little
Yep.
while and let your consciousness live in this
I would
skeleton.
start, and I'm not guaranteeing that it would work, but where I would start to troubleshoot, to try to remedy this, is because there's few things worse than when you have pain and it goes into the night, and that is another level of pain. There's a lot of people that have waking pain. When you have sleeping pain, that is, first of all, it's a lot of pain, and then the double whammy is that it interrupts the sleep cycles, which interrupts hormones, which interrupts energy levels, which
Right.
interrupts cognition and,
Right.
and mind clarity. So this is I've had that before, and it's a very serious thing, and it sucks. Where I would start, were it me, I would start with the Epsom salt baths. I would start religiously with Epsom salt baths, probably 5 times a week, 20 minutes. A lot of people don't want to do them because, for whatever reason, they seem time consuming, or they seem too leisurely, or people think they're too busy. But I'm telling you, the magic of that magnesium, I mean, on so many levels, I've talked about it here before, remember, magnesium is a relaxant. Okay, it is just like there's drugs out there that are relaxants. It's a relaxant. It's a softener. And a lot of the pain in general, for back pain and all, it's not just sciatica nerve. It is inflammation and tension. And so when you take something that softens, whether it be stretching softens. When you take a magnesium that softens, that relaxes, that is a good starting point for something that, when those nerves and everything happen, what happens is, yes, the nerves are pressing on things, but there's a lot of muscular and other skeletal tension. And then that becomes a cascade of inflammation or whatever. The first step is to start relaxing an area. That's the first step is, okay, how do we relax this cycle of tension and pain and inflammation? How do we relax it? Well, Epsom salt is a way that you relax it.
Okay.
So you will absolutely sleep better. I'm not saying you're going to have the best sleep of your life, but however you're sleeping now, your sleep will improve. There's a very high odd your sleep's going to improve. There's a very high odd that your pain is going to be reduced. I can't say to what level, but I would almost guarantee that over a 2 or 3 week period, pain's going to be reduced, and you're going to start to sleep better. And I would bet that over a 1 to 2 month, 3 month, I would bet you would have a serious reduction of pain. Now, that doesn't mean, Noah, that structurally there isn't something still going on there. Remember, I've broken my hand 3 times. Structurally, there's something still going on with my hand. It's not anatomically correct or properly structured. But the reality is there's no pain, right? So structurally, it's not as it should be, but there's no pain. What we want for you is we want pain relief. We can't worry right now about, well, is every disc as it should be? Well, I mean, okay, that's most people have a disc problem by the time they're 35, 40. They have some disc problems or whatever. So what we're worried about right now is just pain relief. I start with Epsom salt baths, and I would be stretching. The problem is too, you sit a lot at work, and you sit for work a lot. I would be trying to stretch more. I know you do. I would be trying to stretch more throughout the day. There are certain stretches I would show you. I would be trying to stretch more different intervals in the day, even if it was 2-3 minutes. So I would start with those things, and then later we could get into internal magnesium citrate, and other things that that you could take in. Some people doing CBD, whatever, but Epsom salt is the go-to starting point in this position.
That seems to from what little I know about pain and the brain, that seems reasonable, because it would kick off. Your body produces something called endocannabinoid.
Yeah.
This is naturally produced, just like everything else. Your body can produce it for you. So it seems like that's a pathway into generating endocannabinoids, having your brain do it.
as a bonus for the Epsom salt, which ties in this what we were talking about earlier, heart health, as a bonus, the Epsom salt is phenomenal for blood flow in the body. In fact, a lot of people, by the time they're 35, 40, 45, when they have all the plaques building up in their body, and those plaques put them at a propensity for stroke, right? Or an aneurysm or an embolism. So those that they get the narrowing of the atherosclerosis, the narrowing of the arteries and the vessels. Well, when you look at plaque, part of the anatomy of plaque, part of what is a plaque, is calcium. Calcium deposits that build up. What dissolves calcium? Magnificently, magnesium. Magnesium. So you talk about like going in and cleaning out arteries and blood vessels and blood flow.
Okay.
Magnesium, brother.
All right.
Magnesium.
So I'll take.
It's going to help your blood flow as well.
I will.
The risk of blood clotting for a lot of people would go down because it improves the circulation, which decreases which usually will decrease plaquing or propensity for plaquing.
How does sun exposure work? Well, but before I even ask that question, we're out of time, unfortunately. Okay. But that's a phenomenal suggestion, prescription for the heavyweights of the world that deal with this. But I wanted to open up a little bit about the, how you think about resistance into training and resistance in life in general. And there's simple and complex. And it's good that you have a spot on prescription to write, essentially, for the keystone. The keystone solution there is to attack the inflammation and the pain of the body. That makes a lot of sense.
It's a great starting point.
Yeah, it seems like it's a great starting point of attacking inflammation in the body, since we hear so much about that, and generating endocannabinoids. I like it. Well, one of the reasons why I asked that we kind of trim down, and we discussed it, trim down the length of the podcast, is because of sitting. Yes, it was hurting me, and I was getting, my attention's. It's hard to keep attention when you're in pain. It is. It's hard to say, so I felt like that was taken away.
You've got a little glow going. I hope we can keep this going. I'm happy that you're okay. I'm a big Noah supporter and believer. I believe that you're, I told you this a couple years ago. You're kind of a Jedi. Like, you're one of those guys I see a lot of very high-functioning Jedi-ness in you, and you kind of look the part. But we all go through things, and now, I hope this is a wake-up call, everything that just happened, and that you're dialed in, and you're not the first guy to have back. Look, this is the thing, Noah. Everybody in the grappling world, you're going to have back and neck pain, and nobody's getting spared that. If you do this for 10 years or more, you're going to have neck pain, and you're going to have it. It's just, it kind of goes with the territory. So we got to find ways to mitigate it, work around it, and that's what you're doing. So I'm excited for you, whether it's running a marathon, whatever it is, swimming, mini triathlon, whatever it is. I'm excited to talk to you personally and on the show in the future, and see where you go, and just really prioritizing your health. I'm very excited for you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I've got news coming once I secure some updates. I got updates coming once they're secured. You don't want to.
All right.
There's no chickens that have hatched yet, so I got to wait for them to hatch.
I like that Kansas City blue. It looks good on you, man. Whatever that Royale blue.
That's a Henzo shirt, my friend.
Okay, I like that Royale blue.
Yeah, I want to work to get in a purple one.
Tell Henzo to send me one of those. Tell Henzo to send me one of those.
You get black. You get one that's in black. I want to work towards making a purple one. I need a purple one. So let's get
You got to work
together.
on getting Henzo on here. I'm going to hold you to that. You got to work on getting Henzo. I might be able to get him, but you, as the student, as the him and Donna Hare or whatever, you got to work the magic.
Slowly, yeah. Slowly. Well, we're taking this slowly. We're taking this slowly because it's like technology, or if you look out, like forms of finance, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, all these things. Give it time. Give it a decade. Give it 10 years. Give it 20 years. Money's been around for thousands of years. We still got to work all this out. You don't have to. Not everyone needs to be on that bleeding edge. We give it time. Podcasting, this is a new way of communication. And for us, we got to learn what works for us. The ultimate goal here is for us just to sit, talk, have conversation, and we're just putting them in we're just putting them to tape so that we have them later for whatever reason. It's just a medium to facilitate conversation. Hey, it's been good talking to you. We haven't
likewise.
We haven't got to meet up for a couple months, and that's okay.
Don't be, what do they call them, an asshole. I want to see a picture privately sometime in the next 3-4 hours of some Epsom salt, like whatever, a 5-pound bag. I want to see some pictorial evidence of Epsom salt in the Noah Green residence. I want to see that within like 3-4 hours. So I'm expecting that.
I actually usually keep a bag right here at my desk, to tell you the truth.
All right.
I soak my feet. I soak my feet sometimes in it while we're having a podcast.
All right.
I've got to, yeah.
I want to see it.
Yeah, well, I'll draw a bath and throw just a cup, right? Just
2
a
cups.
Cup? 2 cups.
2 cups.
Okay, I'm going to run out quickly.
2 cups, 20 minutes. Don't fall asleep in there, because if you have a really big tub, most people don't, but if you did, you could drown. It gets so relaxing.
Come on, I can't do that. I can't do that.
Don't drown in your bathtub. I'll be doing the Everyman solo, and
that's not going to happen yet. And I'm going to start making small steps to get into light heavyweight.
Okay.
185. That's with the gi.
185-pound Noah back to life.
That's with the gi on, though, right? If I'm competing, I gotta hit 185 with the gi on.
I wish I was 185.
Is that true? Like when they weigh you in, is it 185 with the gi?
If that's the weight class, yeah.
Man, that means how heavy is that gi? How heavy is the gi?
2.5 to 4 pounds. It depends. I mean, some people get them smaller, but generally 2.5 to 4 pounds. There's guys getting them 1.5 pounds, but
so I got to work down to 180 pounds
with the belt, and the gi. You're looking at 2.5 to 4 pounds usually.
Yeah, I should weigh my new gi that I got. All right. Well,
it's always a pleasure, Noah.
It absolutely is. I enjoyed it today. Yeah, I'll see you again next week. Take care, sir.
Send me a picture of the Epsom salt. Bye, buddy.
You got it. You got it.
Bye, everyone. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.